Welcome to another episode of Behind the Now. Today I get to chat with actress and career consultant Jen DiBella. Jen received her BA in performance from Fordham University at Lincoln Center, during which she also studied classical theater abroad at the London Dramatic Academy. After booking numerous roles on top TV shows and commercials, Jen eventually created her own business as a career consultant, where she unites her experience as an actress and her skills in strategy and marketing to help actors gain clarity and level up in their own careers. Listen in to be inspired by Jen's contagious energy and genuine passion for working with actors. Well, Jen, thank you so much for doing this with me. I'm so excited to talk with you. So thanks for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. So Jen, you are an actress and an acting consultant. Before we get into consulting, talk to me about how you got into acting. I know you since a young age, but yeah, tell me more about it. I'd love to learn
So
that.
I was very young. I started when I was 6, and it just
Oh,
came
wow.
from me watching TV and telling my parents at a very, very early age, I want to be in the box. And, they kind of shoo-shooed me away. And I just was always a lover of film and stage. I used to go to a lot
Mm.
of stage productions. And so I annoyed them enough to enroll me in a musical theater class when I was young. And then, as it would happen, there was a production company coming around to different schools in the area, acting schools in the
Mm.
area, that was casting a play, and they needed this young girl. And then they sat my parents down and said we would be interested in having her tour. And they were like, huh? So I had to
Oh,
learn
that's so
kind of
cool.
with me. No one has ever done this in my family. So I started with theater, and then later on, or probably in my teens, I would say, I got more interested in film and television,
Mm.
things like that. And then I had my first experience in LA when I was 16 and got my feet wet there, and got a lay of the land and just fell in love with it. So I came home to New York, where I'm originally from, to go to Fordham University. That's the college
Mhm.
program that I went to. And then 2 months after, if not a month after, I moved to LA. So I've been here for 10 years now, and have been in the box, so to speak. So now I have now made it to the box, and I've been on TV and all that good stuff. And yeah, that's how I got my start.
Yeah, I love that. So you mentioned that no one else in your family had done anything similar or anything, huh? What's your family what do they do? Like
Well,
before
my dad
you?
is in commercial real estate. And
Okay.
my mother, this definitely ties in. My mother owned her own business to business marketing company. So at a very young age, as we were all kind of learning the industry together, mostly my mom and I,
Mhm.
she's like, well, you're going to have to take over this business at least when you're 16, if not 18. So you're going to have to learn this too. And she just kind of saw it as, oh, you're the product. And so you
Mhm.
essentially sell your product to the buyers, which is casting, and to agents and managers. She really wasn't far off.
Yeah.
I'm very protective of the actors that I work with, as far as not limiting them to a product. But in so
Mm.
many ways, when we're marketing ourselves, a lot of the same strategies apply. So I took what I learned from her. But yes, my sister works in PR. There was no one
Oh,
ever in front of
cool.
camera or on stage. So
Yeah.
I don't really know where I got it from. No idea.
Yeah, that's so interesting though. That's cool because it's really interesting that from a young age you were able to think of it because obviously you were in love with acting and you were doing it, but you were also able to think about it as a business from a young age. That's always been in you, it sounds like. I think
Definitely.
that gets lost a lot.
Yeah, or just not seen at all for a very long time
Yeah.
until you're faced with it, until it's, how
Yeah.
do I write a cover letter, or how do I put a submission
Right.
together, or how do I conduct myself in a meeting? And so learning those business skills, let's say, at a young
Mhm.
age, by the time I wasn't a minor anymore and I was allowed to go to auditions by myself, it did help a lot. And also, thank God for my mom. When I was younger,
Yeah.
he would read contracts over with me and conduct
Yeah.
everything with an entertainment attorney and go, well, I'm not signing anything. My mom was a really great businesswoman in that sense. I learned about the Coogan accounts from my mom when I was little,
Mhm.
and I
Oh, yeah.
you know, again, thank God for her. She taught me all that stuff, and all of the projects that I had done prior to the age of 18, it was stored in a Coogan account. That's where
Uh-huh.
it goes legally, so that your money doesn't go away. There's a better explanation of Coogan accounts. Don't
Yeah, yeah.
But by the time it was time for me to join SAG, I think I was 18 or 20, my mom was like, "Oh, that fee is in, you can use your Coogan account for that." And so I had my initial due actually just sitting there, which was amazing.
Mhm.
And she taught me all of that so that when I was 18 and ready to go on my own, I was I was helping my friends too. I was
Yeah.
helping them showcase themselves and introduce
Yeah.
themselves. So it definitely, the whole consulting thing has definitely been with me way longer than I originally thought.
Yeah, that I know what you mean. It sounds very like organic because you just like had that knowledge already and you were probably like what you just said, like helping your friends. So at what point did you go into consulting? So yeah, like how did you get into really having your own business for it? And yeah.
I am very happy that it happened the way that it did. So this is something I've always wanted to do, but I put a limitation
Oh,
on
cool.
myself because I felt like I wasn't worthy of guiding actors unless I was a recurring guest star, unless I reached the
Mm,
series regular threshold, let's say. And then 2020 happened, and I was working
okay.
in events. I was actually working for Cirque du Soleil at the time, and
Oh,
obviously
that's
all
really cool.
events, yeah, and I loved it. Oh my gosh, they were really great to work for. But all events obviously were shut down, as we know,
Mhm.
and this was something that finally just made sense. I said, if not now, when? I can finally
Yeah.
start building this business and at least starting with one-on-one clients if there's any interest. So what I originally did, because the way of playing the game, let's say, the whole landscape of acting really did change in 2020 with self tapes existed, but now they were
Mhm.
the only way.
Right.
And Zoom came about, and Blue Jeans came about. Virtual auditioning came about. You now have the Actors Access version, which I'm blanking on right now. EcoCast Live,
Oh
EcoCast
yeah,
Live.
EcoCast, yeah.
Yes. So I was the one who didn't take my foot off the pedal during 2020. Surprise, surprise. And
Mhm.
I was reading every article. I was attending every virtual live I could. I was listening to all of the podcasts. And so I gathered all the information in one place and I made my own webinar called Navigating Your Acting Career in 2020.
Oh my gosh, how
And
amazing. Okay.
I put this PowerPoint together and I didn't know if anyone was going to have any interest, but I made my own little commercial for it. I put it out on Instagram and it sold out very quickly. Within the day,
Oh,
I think
incredible. That's
I
amazing.
yeah, and I realized within that day, I have to have 2 sessions of this because I actually
Okay,
had
yeah.
way more demand, and that's thanks to the actors just sharing it, and then when actors did take the webinar, it became they shared it with their friends. So I first started with these webinars, and then I started offering one-on-one from that because
Mm,
the one-on-ones are obviously catered to you specifically, and it's
right.
all personalized strategy because every single journey is different, as we know. And I don't
Mhm.
claim to know it all. We're always learning. I just happen to be the person who wants to always learn. And
Yeah.
this stuff is fascinating to me. So if it's a
Yeah.
pain in the butt for someone to start gathering their rep databases or start gathering materials that's actually really good for them, identifying your essence, watching worlds that you can actually be in, all of that kind of work, it's an inconvenient truth that you have to do it. You have to do it.
Yeah.
And if you
Sure.
do eventually have an agent or a manager, it's going to help your team so much if you know what purpose you serve in storytelling. And again, that's ever changing and that evolves. But I definitely did the work for a lot of people in the beginning with that type of workshop, and then
Mhm.
thank God I built trust with people, and the referrals have
Yeah.
outstanding, and I'm so, so grateful, and they absolutely know that. All my clients, they definitely know that. I'm so grateful when they recommend me to one of their acting friends. But I like to think it's because I get excited about everyone. I definitely love what I do. And there's this need to put puzzles together, puzzle pieces
Yeah.
together,
So
that
true.
that I just enjoy it, whereas some people might not love that side of the industry. And I
Yeah.
hope that I
Uh-huh.
make it a little bit more fun for them, basically.
Yeah, and you're definitely like you're obviously providing tremendous value because otherwise people just there's so much out there like otherwise you just don't share it, you know? So that's it doesn't matter like obviously you love it, but no matter what, you're obviously providing value, you know?
And I
So
would
that's
say
really
too that
awesome
I think the thing that finally pushed me to take
to like
that leap
do
was
it. Yeah.
yes, to take the leap was there is so much information out there. Again, I'm not claiming to
Mm,
know everything. That's always changing, but I have experienced quite a lot. Now there it's
yeah,
10 years in LA, but I've been doing it since I was 6, and
right.
I have had not so great things happen to me. I've had some
Yeah.
very hard lessons learned, and I've worked with some not great people, and I've auditioned for things that I really was not comfortable auditioning for. So if I can shed light on my experience when a client
Mhm.
is about to go through that, everyone's going to have their own experience, but I like to think, what if I could be the helping hand that could prevent them from this heartbreak or prevent
Yeah.
them from working with someone that might not be so great? That I was really pushed to do that too because there is so much free information out there, and I started questioning some of the people that was
Yeah,
providing that
definitely.
information,
Yeah.
and I finally was like, unless I take action, I'm always going to be frustrated. So let's
Yeah.
go for it. I wish I had a me when I started in LA, and that's what I always bring it back to. I
Yeah.
know that everyone's gonna go through it the way that they have to go through it. I can't prevent a lot of things, but I can definitely guide people, and that's what I take
Yeah.
pride in for sure.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I also love you said something in there. You said, I was going to be frustrated until I did it. And that's just like something that anyone can apply. Like everyone has that thing that they like have been thinking about sort of, but not doing it. And
Yeah,
like the frustration builds. You have to go through and do those things, you know? And it sounds like you've always wanted to help people in that way. And you probably had times of like questioning, do I really have enough experience or do I really know enough or do I really whatever, you know?
right.
And then you just did it and it just showed you that it sold out so quickly and that it's still growing and it's still
Yeah,
going, that clearly you're doing something right and you're offering something of value to people, you know? And you're probably less frustrated. Yeah.
I really appreciate that because I am now full time. It's my 3rd year, and I've worked
Yeah.
very, very hard.
Incredible.
And again, it's establishing that trust, and the reason why I was nervous in the beginning was, would I trust someone who has not been the series regular yet or whatever it is? But what I really realized was the experience that I already gained is enough for a lot of people. If you're just
Yeah.
coming out of a college program and you have no idea how to introduce yourself to the real world, I can help you with that. I've done that before. And if
Right.
you had a if you have had your first handful of auditions and you want to stay in front of that casting director, but you don't want to be annoying or sleazy in any way, trying to like hand out your headshot to everyone,
Yeah.
I have found ways that work and they're authentic. And so it
Yeah.
doesn't, as long as we build certain habits to remain the proactive actor, it doesn't matter eventually like what your credits are. I think that
Yeah.
it's just I think the theme, what you were saying too, and what I'm trying to wrap up saying here is action. I feel like the theme lately
Yeah.
for me has been action. And no matter what, I see it in my clients too. As long as you can get out of your own way and take action,
Yeah.
because everything that we say to ourselves most of the time, no one cares about that as much as you do. No one's paying
Mhm.
attention to that as much as you are.
Yeah.
And worst comes to worst, take action, try it out. And if it doesn't work the way that you were hoping it worked, you definitely will learn no matter what from that experience. And then you go from
Yeah.
there. You tweak it and you try again, or you
Right.
have a different approach,
Exactly.
something like that.
Yeah, and I love that you kind of said, or like at least I always think too, is like no one's really paying as much attention to you as you think. So like
No.
even if you want to like try something, you can like change it, you can delete it, you can just like whatever, you know?
I say this all the time. If we're going to like an industry party, or if we're going to a friend of a friend's party, whatever the heck it is, and we're getting in
Uh-huh.
the way of I shouldn't have worn this, or
Yeah.
I don't know this many people, and then if I get separated from you, I don't know who to tell. We always go, no one cares. No one cares. And
Yeah.
we just always remind ourselves that, we do it in a joking way, but it does make us feel better. No one cares as much as you do. Everyone's
Yeah.
really concerned about themselves. That's just kind of how it
Yeah.
is. And so you owe it to yourself. If you feel called and moved to do something, just freaking do it. I'm so, so passionate about that, especially there are certain clients. I mean, every single client I have, I'm a huge believer. That's definitely not hard to tell. I'm just passionate about anyone who's passionate about doing this because
Mhm.
there's so many things out there that could prevent you from doing it. The statistics that
Right.
say that less than 1% of us are going to do a damn thing and blah, blah, blah. Yes, but if you feel called to do it, hush up the noise, go for it anyway. And I love when someone's about to like hit submit on their first real audition submission or hit send on their first real agent response, something like that. I'm like,
Mm.
okay, take a deep breath, go with confidence and hit send. And it's so exciting. And they all say, God, that felt like a rush. Like I was nervous. I said, it's because you care. It's good. It's
Yeah.
because you care. And that's the same thing that when we start auditioning and we get nervous, I say, turn that into excitement. Think of the nerves as excitement and just know that your body cares. It's
Yeah.
nothing to be scared about. It's just your body telling you, "Ooh, I really care about this. I'm really
Yeah.
excited
Yeah.
about this."
Yeah, I really love that. And there's a thing too that I think of a lot that physiologically, I think your body responds the same way to excitement and nerves. And I always
Yes.
think that because it's like it's how you want to label it in your head. Like you can, if you're nervous, you can be like, "Oh, I'm excited," because it's like similar, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I definitely went through some crazy, crazy audition nerves for a period of time. I was going
Hmm.
in for a lot of procedural shows, so I always felt like there was no room for error because there really wasn't. There's
Hmm.
a jargon, there's a speed to it, and once you get on the train, you have to stay on the train because if anything happens, if there's a falter in the track or something and you're off of it, you're off of it. So I kind of felt like, God, every audition just has to be perfect for these shows. And that was
Hmm.
really stressful for me, especially when we're dealing with like doctor jargon and
Hmm.
cop and firefighter and all that stuff. And I would get really, really nervous before because I felt like if I missed a word, if I missed the pace, I would just fail, right? And it's something that I definitely worked through in class. But changing that mindset to, oh gosh, I'm getting this rush of nerves right now. I don't want to be nervous. I want to be nervous. And changing it to, I'm really excited to perform today. That's what my body is
Hmm.
telling me. I'm really excited to perform for today. And it really doesn't matter. Even if the train goes off the tracks and I fall on my face, I'm still going to be here at the end of the day. And it does help getting in front of the same people over and over again because I had one
Hmm.
casting director. I was mortified at one point. I felt like I just blew this audition. And I went back in for her again a couple months later. I said, after I auditioned and felt solid about it, I said, I just want to thank you so much. I felt like I just fell on my face last time. And she was like, one, I don't even remember that. And she goes, two, you had a bad day. You're allowed to have a bad day. and just feeling
Wow.
that freedom from casting, they know what you're capable of if you've been in front of them a couple times, which is that makes things easier too as you grow.
Hmm.
You go, okay, they this is someone who's a fan, let's say, like a believer, not a fan as in an
Yeah.
egotistical thing, but they're a believer, right? So they're on your side. And even when they don't know you, casting is on your side. And that's a big thing I also just preach all the time because when we're starting out, we're like, oh no, agents and managers and casting, oh my. And it doesn't have to be like that. We're all people. And
Yeah, all
serve a
people. I love
purpose.
that.
And I saw a post today by a casting director that was wonderful, and it said everyone has a boss, and And it's true. You know, we put certain people, maybe casting, maybe agents, maybe managers on pedestals. And at the end of the day, like they all have bosses too. So if we can come in and be a solid choice for casting by just preparing for our audition and bringing them in choices, it makes their job easier. They get to report back to their boss and go, I have solid options.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
it's out of their hands.
Right, and out of your hands. And I also like, that's funny though, when you were called, so with that specific casting director, you probably saw their name again and you're like, whoa, they're having me back
Yeah.
in. I was terrible.
Oh,
But then, and then they themselves were like, no one remember, like they don't even know what you're talking about. They just like called you in again, you know? They just like, oh, we know her. Or
yeah.
maybe they don't remember, but like they called you in again. And you're probably thinking like, oh, this time I better do well.
Oh,
Like,
yes. Then
yeah.
like even more pressure. And then so when it did go well, I was like, okay, let me be real with you. I'm glad that I could like close this chapter in my head because I've been freaking out the last 3 months that you were never going to call me in.
Oh my
Yes, I've
gosh.
experienced that, but my actor friends have too, where I
Yeah.
told them, I guarantee it was not as bad as you thought it was. And then, this is just it's comical what we do to ourselves because the
I
other side of
know.
this coin is when I do so well in an audition or and I just had a conversation with an actor about this yesterday. She goes, "Is it just me or when you feel like you've nailed an audition, you never hear?" It's one of those things where you could feel like it went so badly and then you get called back in or you get the call back and you're like, what? I had one audition where I thought I did so badly that I embarrassed everyone and I just said, that's it. I'll never go in for that office again. I don't know what the heck happened. It was awful. And I got a call maybe 2 or 3 hours later that I was the choice for the role and network had to approve me. And I
Oh my
booked
gosh.
that one. And this was me
Yeah.
going, oh my God, I'm going to have to apologize to everyone. I just made a fool of myself and I booked it. And then the other side of this is crushed that. I'll be waiting for the phone to ring for that one. Nothing. Don't even get the call back. So
Mm.
we're not our best judge when it comes to
Yeah.
auditioning. And that's why I also tell actors, with the game of self-tapes now, I keep saying the game, don't get me wrong. It's just, the way
Yeah.
in which we
Just
act
right.
now. Um, I tell actors now when they're self-taping, it's really hard to watch yourself back for most
Mm.
people. And I always encourage them, have a trusted friend or two in the industry. If you really feel torn between a choice or two different takes, and you do the same for your actor friend, if you can share it with them and go, I'm just really torn. Do you mind looking at this?
Mhm.
It's helpful because if you feel like, oh my gosh, this was so bad, I can't submit it. And if you can have someone that you really trust in the industry going, send it, you're fine, this is great, I saw X, Y, and Z and it really read. Whereas if
Yeah.
you're like, I think this is fire, am I wrong? And they're like, I think this was one note or something like that. Again, a trusted friend in the industry, as long as you do the same for
Yeah.
them. We all have to help ourselves out always, but especially now because it's really, really hard to be the casting director who's sending the final take. We're not really trained in that, are we? We're just trained
Yeah. Yeah.
in doing our thing. So,
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
good that's really hard, I find, to distinguish anything. You're just like I find I'm just like, "Okay, well, those moments worked better than that one, but those moments worked better than that one." Like, okay.
yeah. Especially when you
Okay,
stop
like, you know
recording
what
and
I
you're like,
mean?
I hit all of the beats, I hit all of the things, and then you rewatch it and it doesn't read at all. And you're like, well, I have to do it again and I just have to be better.
Yeah, it's really so for that kind of thing, you recommend having, like, letting, like, another person that you trust, of course, watch it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or have them be your reader. I think that that's the easiest thing
Okay,
because
yeah.
I I feel like I generally have my readers virtually. I'll have them on my laptop, and
Yeah, I do
it's
too now,
rare.
actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it's rare that I actually have someone in front of me now, even though I love that
Yeah, and that used to be
luxury.
the only option. Like,
Yeah.
having on a computer would be, like, absolute last resort.
Yes.
And
How
now since
dare you?
COVID, it's like yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, go on.
No, no, that's okay. I think obviously there has been a lot that has changed since
Mhm.
2020, but that's one of those things where there is thankfully this understanding that we're all doing the best we can. The most important thing is that we're seen and heard clearly. Casting across the
Mm.
board has said that. And you don't have to go to the professional studio. I know that this has been the big topic that actors feel pressure to do that, etc. But I tend to have my readers virtually, and they're usually my very good actor friends, or it's a coach that I'm coaching with in real time. And because we can't get notes in the room anymore,
Yeah, and
I find that
feedback
it
and
really, yeah, I find that it really helps with anticipating a note that could be given, whether it's pick up the pace, whether it's actually just suck the emotion out of this. It's just very factual. Those are those roles that are like just deliver the pizza and don't make a big scene about it. But I do definitely think that at the very least, send a tape or two to a friend if you're feeling only when you're really feeling like I
yeah,
have
only
an
when you're
idea.
yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay, that makes sense, yeah.
by you could get ahead of that by having a reader that is a trusted actor friend. You can kind of,
Yeah,
kill two birds with one stone because they're watching you in real time. They usually know what you're capable of, and they can provide feedback that really can help.
yeah. Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. So in your consulting, it's more, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's more, the business side, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Is there anything just like off the top of, just like anything, like how do you, so if you have like a brand new client, what's kind of like the approach or how do you work with them or
Yeah,
so,
so
people listening can understand?
definitely. The first session definitely feels like an all about me for them, and that's totally normal. What I usually ask is, what was your relationship starting out with the industry? Whether that's they
Mm.
started young, whether that's they gave up a career and just pivoted a couple of
Mhm.
years ago. How did you get your start in the industry? I always ask this next thing because it did change for a lot of people. 2020 happened. How did that change things? Or how did that change some goals for you? And why
Yeah,
now?
that's a
Why
brilliant question.
yeah, and then the last thing is, and why now? Why reach out to me at this point in your career? And listen,
Mhm.
everyone has a career, whether you just decided to do this yesterday versus you're trying to switch reps right now. It's down the line,
Yeah.
whatever it is. And what are the goals that you have in the next couple months in the near future? What are you hoping for? So
Mhm.
that gives me a pretty good that context gives me a really good place to start from. And then
Mhm.
we look at materials, what everyone's working with. And I always tell people we are going to start with what we have. We're not going to immediately dive into headshots and dive into. I am
Mm.
a big. I preach this all the time to people as well. Invest wisely. We're
Yeah,
going to only invest when it's really a need.
necessary. Uh-huh.
Yes, and let's see what we're working with first and see how that goes. And then if it's not working, we do have to switch it up. And everyone's different, but once I hear what they're hoping to achieve in the next couple
Mhm.
months, we can definitely go from there. And that's why my job
Mhm.
is really interesting because each session is different. It's never the
Yeah.
same thing twice. And I'm always working with a different actor with a different skill set with different materials, and it's figuring out how to bring their strongest skill set to
Mm.
the front lines to
Yeah.
introduce themselves to the industry. So
Yeah.
it's always new, and that's what really makes it exciting, and I get super invested.
Yeah, I can tell, and I really love actually, that makes a lot of sense. I really love that you, look at what they already have, what they're already working with, and then go from there because a lot of people, like, not even, like, even reps and even like, a lot of people will just kind of, like, give kind of like a skim of your stuff and just be like, okay, you need new headshots, you need this, you need that. And then you're paying like a whole bunch of money right off
Yeah.
the bat, not even knowing, like a month later you can be talking to someone else and they're like, oh, this doesn't work for you. This is like, it's just all opinion, right? And a
Yeah.
lot of actors don't necessarily know themselves well enough, or it's early in their career and they're just going to list, and it's, you know what I mean? You can be like pinballed around very easily. So it's really nice how like organic and real you are, and you can you do see what they already have, make
Yes.
that work until you know it's not working, you know? That's
Exactly.
cool.
I mean, in this day
Yeah.
and age, I don't think any of us have disposable income. And so when we choose to invest in our career, we want to make sure that we're doing the best thing that we can in the moment, and
Yeah.
we've tried everything else. So for example, like what you were saying, if I have someone who's trained at the Groundlings or trained at UCB and they have a big comedy improv background, let's say, they
Mhm.
have tremendous amounts of skills. You don't need tremendous amounts of skills, but bear with me here. You got a comedy improv background, you got some skills, right? And you have okay pictures. They are full of personality. They're not the best, but it's really impressive that you've been on the Second City main stage, or it's really
Mm.
impressive that you've done the Crazy Uncle Joe show at Groundlings. So there is a way in which we can say hi to some commercial reps and get their attention with what you have right now. We'll try
Mhm.
it, right? And we are going to do the best we can to not have to have you invest in a full photo shoot right now for commercial, because what tends to happen is you eventually sign with a commercial rep, let's say, for example, in this story, and they might look at your stuff and go, I actually really would prefer you to shoot with one of these photographers. They know exactly what we need. They work for our clients all the
Yeah,
time.
that's true.
And we want to make sure that you have this type of picture and this type of
Yeah.
vibe and this and whatever. So if my client and I have already done that and it's not what the eventual rep wants,
Right,
what,
right.
they're gonna pay for 2 photo shoots? I don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
Because guess what? It's happened to me so many times. So
Oh my
that's one of those things where I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, I didn't know this in my young 20s. And I also probably could have at the time said, "Oh, can we try these for the 6 months or so as I fill up my piggy bank and
Yeah.
go from there?" You know, when you're starting out, if anyone says yes to you, you're so ready to jump at the bit and you don't want to ruffle any feathers or whatever. But yes, it's about starting with working with what you have and going
Yeah.
from there. And here's the thing, if we do that submission and no one comes a calling, then maybe it is time to let's do the shoot this time, and
Yeah.
let's see if something changes.
Yeah, I love that. And also a lot of reps will work that way too. Even if like when you start they'll say, okay, like they'll work with what you have as well,
Yeah.
actually, until, and then maybe reevaluate if like nothing's moving, you know,
Yes.
after a while. Yeah.
Because
But
they
yeah,
know
that's awesome.
with the relationships that reps have, they usually know if the appointments aren't happening, they have to look at the materials. And that is
Yeah.
when they revisit that conversation going, okay, we did try it with these shots for the last 6 months. How are we doing? They know that everything
Yeah.
is up. Our casting sites, you know, the self-tape equipment and the photo shoots,
Yeah.
all of that. They know. And class as well. It all definitely adds up.
Yeah. Definitely. I like, yeah. And also sounds like you have a very comprehensive approach to everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And like you ask the right
definitely thorough.
questions to get. Sorry.
Yeah, it's definitely thorough, and I
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
I honor what it's the client's career at the end of the day. I'm here for them,
Right.
and we definitely make a game plan for sure, and I want everyone, as soon as they leave the session, I want them to feel more confident about an actionable step that they can take afterwards. And sometimes they leave the session with homework. I hate calling it that, but I don't know what else to call
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
But
because what
by
all
the
I know there's stuff you have to do.
yeah, by the next session that we have together, it just becomes that much more productive because they
Mhm.
got all of this done. And so great, now we can tackle your LA casting profile. Now we can, X, Y, and Z. I tend to work with actors every other week because life happens and who the heck knows what comes up, but at least it tends to give them enough time to get to everything. So by the time we meet for our next session, again, it's just that much more productive.
Yeah, that makes sense. And do you develop kind of like a timeline, like over?
Yeah, and some, everyone works differently, I would say. There are some people who are like, okay, I need a timeline. I need to know if I want to get to X, Y, and Z. And again, there's no predicting most of this, but there's definitely accountability, I would say, for holding yourself accountable to certain goals that you are in control of. So if it's one of those things where you just got footage back from a short film, okay, great. Let's look at that short film. Let's pick out the 15 to 30 second scene that is going to really highlight this thing that you want to represent in your reel. It is on us that by the end of the month, we want to add that footage to the reel and get it up on Actors Access. Something like that. Those things are in our control. Everything else, if someone says, I want to book 3 co-stars by Tuesday of next week, I'll be like, well, I'm not the right person for you because we don't know that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Let's have you go to a co-star class with a casting director who does this every single day and learn from them. And let's have you, practice a co-star. We can do it in real time. If you wanted to bring in a co-star scene and we do it a couple different times and we can figure out how to utilize this space to tell the story a little bit more. Things like that. But there definitely are clients who prefer a timeline and go, okay, I want to be here by next spring. How can we get close to that? And then we go for it.
I have so do you also work with actors on like social media or what is your take on social media in general, like at all?
I'm like laughing.
However you want to answer that. Yeah.
I'm only laughing because I tell everyone that my social media is trial and error. I have no idea what's going to work.
Okay, yeah.
I'm talking about
That's probably the truth for everyone, honestly. Anyone that claims to know.
This is what I would tell people. I think we've gotten past, the notion of, I need to have 1,000,002 followers in order to get in for this audition. I think that we're past that mentality. And we have busted that myth, so to speak.
Okay.
For social medias for actors, I feel like it is important to have a presence, but be who you are at the end of the day. If you're someone who doesn't want to be attached to your phone, if you're someone who's a lot more private and not comfortable with that, I think we have to totally honor ourselves before we try to people please, always.
Yeah.
And so if there's a presence, great. But if anything, I'm someone who has not ever subscribed to that thought that I need to have all of this stuff on social media. What I will say is if you have a niche in, let's say, the TikTok world and you're killing it and you have a following, that doesn't hurt. It certainly doesn't hurt. But when it comes to actors and their social media, I don't touch that. There are certain people who definitely do that. I laugh because with my business social media, I do the best I can, but it has all been a learning experience for me. I want to connect. I have that drive to connect, which is why I do it. And I want to provide resources outside of sessions for actors as well. Besides for that, it wouldn't be fun for me, I don't think.
Yeah, I totally know what you're saying.
And I have, so for example, I have actors who are everyone from a comedian to a puppeteer, and they have crazy followings. And again, that's something that's specifically for them. We will highlight that in a meeting because I think that is important to know. And they have gained that audience in a natural way. So that's always fantastic. But I definitely am not like, let's look at your Instagram. Let's dive. With the casting profiles, that's my lane for sure.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, that's like, at the end of the day, like whatever it is that's truly, so anything that's not authentic to you, I just feel like won't last regardless, because it's too hard to keep up. Like you can't just like, so I love,
And then exactly like you said, like I have been there before where I go, okay, I'm trying to keep up with the Joneses. That's kind of what it feels like. And someone might really love doing all of that stuff, and that's wonderful. But if that's not true to who you are, it's eventually going to crumble anyway.
Yeah.
That's how
Oh,
I feel.
yeah. Okay, yeah. I really I really like your take on all of that. I
I,
was just curious.
I
I'm
know
like, I
so
wonder
many
if
people
that's like a
disagree with
big
me right
part.
now.
Sorry?
I said, I know so many people must disagree with me right now. I'm just trying to see
Oh,
the
I
actor
see.
who feels like they can't be an actor because they don't have a million followers. No, you're okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Welcome.
your messages don't let that get in the way of anything you wanna do, so that
Yeah.
makes sense.
I think we've all gotten better about social media, I think.
Yeah.
As you know, as Threads just launched, but I so far really like Threads. I find it fun, and I hope that that continues. But we'll see. Every time a new platform comes about, I'm the first one to go,
Yeah.
not again. I have an overwhelm that comes about, and
Yeah.
I just get super resistant. And this time I decided to put that aside and dive in, and I've been having a good time on there. So hopefully that lasts.
Wow, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes that's just like yeah, that's the approach sometimes, like, you know what I mean? And you're just like, "Eh, whatever." You're just like,
And
just
you
check
know,
it
on the
out.
other side of the spectrum, I'm super impressed and inspired by the people who do so well on social media. Don't get me
Yeah, yeah.
wrong. I was just always
No, I
someone
know.
who
Yeah.
I feel like I didn't make it my priority
Yeah.
to learn all that stuff or just to do
Mhm.
all of that. And I'm fascinated by the numbers of people that you can reach if you really
Yeah.
know what you're doing.
Yeah. No, it is. It's incredible.
Yeah.
But it's also good. Yeah, but it's also good to hear you're saying like you don't think like to put a pressure if it's not your thing,
Yeah.
to like make it
That's
your thing.
exactly what
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, which is great. And also it's interesting. So you think a little bit like that phase you think has passed. I actually agree. I agree with you. Like I haven't thought about it, but I think so too. So at least to some degree, right? It's like,
I feel like it might be because and I'm thinking back to 10 years ago when I first got to LA
mm,
and now, and I feel like in that time there are departments for influencers. There are
right. That's true.
departments for social media, and that was very new. If that had started back then in
Mm,
like 2013, it was only a few agencies who started departments for it. So I feel like now that it's almost just a completely separate lane for some people,
oh, I see what
that
you're
that
saying.
might have been helpful in our progression away from I need to have all these followers to blah 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 blah.
Uh-huh.
I think that might be one of the reasons, but I do think that we're in a better place about
Yeah.
maybe not, but I think I'm in a better place about it. I guess that's where I
Yeah,
stand.
no, when you say that, I totally agree. Like I hadn't thought of it or articulated it that way, but when you say that, I'm like, I feel like that's true. Yeah.
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 There's certain brand deals for only the influencer and the content creator folks,
Mm,
and I think it's great that it's been able to be separated out a little bit. Again, I don't
yeah,
know
no, for
much about
sure.
that world, but it's interesting.
Yeah. It is interesting for sure. Jen, I'm gonna ask you a few just like fun random questions, okay?
Okay.
Um I forgot the first one I wanted to. Oh, okay, I got one. What is a weird talent maybe that no one knows about?
Oh man.
I just feel like that's a fun one for you because you're like very open.
I'm gonna disappoint you, I think. What is
That's
a fun
okay.
talent that I have? You know, I don't know why this is the first thing that came to my brain, but my friends will laugh. Make popcorn.
Yes.
Okay, hold on. I
Okay.
make popcorn like on the stove, like
Okay.
Little House on the Prairie vibes. Uh, and I make really, really good popcorn, like fresh popcorn. And
Yeah.
this is very disappointing as an answer, so I'm so sorry.
No, that's actually I
I love
love that.
popcorn.
Oh, no way. So do you mean you put the kernels like straight onto a pan?
That's right, little oil,
Oh, very cool.
little seasonings. But I'm so obsessed about my popcorn, and I have had the feedback that I make very good popcorn.
Oh,
So
wow.
I
That's
don't know if
very
that's like
cool.
I don't know.
Have you always Have you always just done that, or was there like a specific moment where you tried popcorn on the stove instead?
I can't believe you asked me this because there was a specific moment. I was in London. I was studying Shakespeare in London, and that's not a joke. And my roommate, we couldn't find microwave popcorn at any of the very late. We couldn't find microwave popcorn, and her friend was over and she was like, "You could just get the kernels." And I was like, "What do you mean I could just get the kernels?" And she showed me how to make popcorn on the stove.
Oh, there you go.
This took a turn.
Oh, that's very cool. I love that. And that's so funny. Like moments like that can like define something for you, or like not define, but like make a new thing.
I'm just thinking of my friends listening to this, and they're just like, "Good, you talk about your popcorn. Are you happy?" Yes, that was a defining moment in my life.
I love that though. Okay. What is your horoscope sign, and does that mean anything to you?
Ooh, oh, I'm a Pisces. Everyone just went click. They clicked off. I'm a Pisces, and that means I'm a dreamer, for sure.
Okay.
I don't live my life by the zodiac sign, but
Right. Okay.
there are certain things that I definitely can't deny. And it was always the artist, the creative, the emotions. I'll say it again, the emotions. And I think that's kind of where it ends for me. But when I don't know if this is all connected, but when there's a full moon, I'm a mess. So every single time. So I don't know. Maybe that's as far as I go with it. Where if I look up at this full moon, I'm like, I'm gonna lock myself in the closet, and I'll see you all next time. Because
that's really interesting.
I get
actually,
super emotional. I don't know why.
Yeah, I totally get that. That's very interesting. Do you like see it? I don't know why I'm at. Like, do you see it's a full moon, and that, do you think any part of it's mental, or do you really think, or is there like an association? Or you don't even have to answer that. Like, I don't know if you can know.
Do you start howling, or what happens? No, I can't describe it as any other way. When I was a little bit younger, like I would just start crying because I wanted to be an actress so bad, and then I would check if there's a full moon, and like there was, like when things just like
I know what you mean.
out of nowhere, and I would get super emotional out of nowhere. It made me feel better because like, all right, something weird's happening, and I don't really know. So I don't know if it's all connected, or it definitely doesn't happen the reverse way. I definitely don't just see the full moon and go, I'm gonna be crazy.
No, I know. Okay, I love that though. I think that's really cool. You have like you acknowledge that there's some correlation with like a full moon and your emotions, which I think is very valid.
I think so. It would be amazing if it lined up for like a really emotional scene. I'd be like, great, I'm gonna kill it Thursday.
No, of course not. You have to do the scene like half moon. That's when you get it. Yeah. And then this podcast is called Behind the Now, but like Be the Now is highlighted. And so I just want to ask you, how do you be the now? And that's up to your interpretation, but like, how do you be present? Or like maybe when are you present, or however you want to answer that. Yeah.
Being present has been quite the journey for me. Living in the now has been quite the journey. What has helped, especially this year, I am definitely in my body more. I stretch. I make it a priority to exercise at least 10 minutes a day, not even that much. I just have to check in. I have adapted this new thing called Sunday reset. That's how I describe it, and I've heard it described that way, where I will take some time on a Sunday evening to either journal out some things that I definitely want to make sure get done for the week. I'll journal out where I'm at right now, because I used to be someone who really got anxious before a week started. And by implementing practices like getting in my body, I'll reset for the week. I really do my best now to not do the what ifs as much as I can.
Yeah.
I have to cross the bridge when I come to it. And I feel like it is just something that's not easy. And it's something that I genuinely have to work on every day. But I really do love that question, because that started my year. I feel like I started 2023 wanting to live in the now. I actually had this talk with my agent, and she recommended, I think it's called Living in the Now, Power of Now.
The Power of Now. Yes, yeah. Eckhart Tolle.
Yes. And that started off my year wanting to be in the now. So I love that.
Wow.
That was like a full circle moment because I've actively been working on that.
Yeah, I love that. And also the Sunday reset, I'm gonna start doing that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Because
great.
the opposite is the Sunday scaries.
Yeah. All right.
When you just anticipate waking up for work that day, or is this going to happen this week, or you're going to find out we are not living in the now. It's the complete opposite. So by having the Sunday reset and focusing on that moment before the week, game changer. It has been a game changer for me.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to start doing that. Okay, cool. And then where can our listeners find you? If they want to work with you, what should they do? Give me all your details.
Yeah, for sure. So you can find me on Instagram at JD Acting Consultant. I am on Threads as well through that profile. And you can definitely DM me. You can look at my website, jenniferlaurendibella.com. There is a consulting/coaching tab on that website, and it'll tell you a little bit more about me, even though now you know that I love popcorn. I'm a psycho when there's a full moon. But you can find out more about me, and there's a little I'm interested button on that website as well that will bring you to my email. But yes, DM me, connect on Instagram. I always tell people, don't feel free to reach out. I'm not scary. I'm just weird. But I like to think it's a fun weird. and again, I'm just really passionate about what I do. So let's take a look at what you're working with. Let's talk game plan, and let's make it happen. I really do everything that I can, and my clients know that almost to a fault. I am available. So I'm like I said, I'm invested, and if it's in between sessions and you need to reach out, I definitely am there for people as well. And again, I just wanted to be the helping hand, and I feel like I've become it. So I'm very proud of that, but I wouldn't be here without the actors that I work with, for sure.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I love talking to you. You are you're so incredible and easy to talk to, and so much fun. And I can just tell you're like very genuine and passionate about what you're doing, and you're like doing all the right things. I can feel that. So that's really cool.
This was so much fun. I felt like a goofball, but that's how you know that you're comfortable, and that's because of you. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.